When I was 10 years old, I'd loved animals all my life. And I read a book that made me dream of going to Africa, living with wild animals and writing books about them.
So for today's world, what's the biggest threat of evil in today's world?
Well, probably what really upsets me in Palestine, in Gaza. I think that's just, I mean, so many children killed, thousands of them, bombed, destroyed. That has to be evil, doesn't it?
So what's the best solution or attitude towards evil?
Conquering it somehow. Go back to the Lord of the Rings. Sauron, the Dark Lord,
Yeah.
and the orcs. It is really, it's almost like a whole scene of today. So we need, so we actually talk about this, you know, when I'm talking about particularly the environmental problems of the world. And, you know, there are people with the Jane Goodall Institute, with Roots and Shoots. And so I say, you know, we've got to grow the fellowship. You know, Lord of the Rings is Fellowship of the Ring. Well, we haven't got a ring, but we need to grow the fellowship to fight the Dark Lords. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I say to people sometimes when they say, well, I don't have hope, but I'll go on fighting anyway because, as I've always said, supposing there isn't any hope, which I really don't believe. I believe there is hope because I think we're beginning to wake up. But suppose there wasn't. Isn't it better to die fighting for what you believe in than just to give up and let your last days fade away and eat, drink and be merry, for tomorrow we die?
Because you said you like the Lord of the Rings very much. So if you were in book, what kind of role you would play? Frodo or Sam or Gandalf? Which one you want to play?
I didn't ever want to play any here. I just admired them or hated them, depending.
It's also about how people live in the dark times. So what do you get from the book? I mean, about courage, about maybe dilemma,
Persistence.
persistent.
Hope. I mean, Frodo and Sam attempted the impossible. And that's one of my reasons for hope, the people who attempt the impossible and are told that they're stupid, but they succeed.
How literature experience shape your scientific discovery?
I don't know that it did. I mean, even as a little girl, I was out in nature watching birds and insects and squirrels and, you know, loving to be out looking at the colors of the autumn tree and the little buds coming out in spring. And that tied in with poetry very much.
Who is your favorite poet?
Probably Keats.
Keats.
Yeah.
Lots about nature, about the birds. Yeah.
I used to read Shakespeare all the time and then poetry. I read a lot of poetry and I loved it.
How does this kind of experience change your maybe scientific training?
Because I haven't had scientific training. I'm much more romantic than a scientist.
Yeah, actually, you're a romance-driven person, actually.
You know, scientific method, the way I use it's fine, but scientific method, being objective and cold, that's led to a lot of cruelty. You know, your animals are just subjects. I was told we were not part of the animal kingdom, we're separate. That's rubbish. When I was 10 years old, I'd loved animals all my life. And I read a book that made me dream of going to Africa, living with wild animals and writing books about them. And as I say, everybody laughed at me because I was just a girl. But here was the importance of my mother. She said to me, if you really want to do something like this, you're going to have to work really, really hard, take advantage of every opportunity. It wasn't easy. As I say, we didn't have much money. I was very good at school, but we didn't have money for university. I got a boring secretarial job in London, but I couldn't save money up in London. And so I went home. We lived on the south coast, and I got a job as a waitress. Jolly hard work. But it took 5 or 6 months until I'd saved up enough money for a fare to Africa. Anyway, to cut the long story short, I got to Africa. I met the famous paleontologist, Dr. Louis Leakey, and he offered me the opportunity to go and live with and learn from chimpanzees. Well, for the first 4 months, the chimpanzees ran away from me. So I think this is maybe one of the earliest times when hope was so important. And hope was realized by working very hard, getting up every day at 6 a.m., staying out in the fields, out in the forest, every day until darkness fell. And it was in this way that I gained the trust of the chimpanzees. And the most exciting thing that I then found out, how like us they are. They kiss, they embrace, they hold hands, they pat one another in reassurance. Males competing for dominance stand upright and swagger with furious scowls, shake their fist. Does that remind you of some human male politicians? I was nervous. I mean, I'd never been to college. And I was told I'd done everything wrong. Jane, you shouldn't have given the chimps names. They should have had numbers. You cannot talk about them having personality, mind, emotion. Those are unique to us. I'd had a wonderful teacher as a child who had taught me that these wise professors were talking rubbish. That wise teacher was my dog, Rusty. You can't share your life with any kind of animal and not know we are not the only beings on the planet with personalities, minds, and emotions.